Hello, and today we're going to look at the themes, the motifs, and the symbolism in Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants. So the short story is about a couple with a major conflict. The girl is pregnant and she doesn't want an abortion, but her boyfriend appears to want her to get the operation. Now, Hills Like White Elephants was written by Ernest Hemingway and was published in 1927 in a book called Men Without Women. Now, over time since its publication, people have read and analyzed this seemingly simple piece of fiction and have formed various opinions on the themes, the motifs, and the symbolism throughout. I can only present just some of them, but I'll present some of them here. So we'll start with the theme, and the theme is the main thought or the central idea that's being expressed by a work. One of the theme is the communication, because here we have two people with an inability to communicate effectively. There is a definite conflict between the couple, and yet they don't want the conflict. You also hear in the communication the girl's dependence upon the man, where the man is trying to tell her what to drink, what to think, what his opinions are, and that she should be bullied into his opinions. Another theme to go along with that bullying is selfishness and manipulation. And if you look at the words, there's a lot of dialogue in this very short story, but if you look at the words that the man uses, the American uses towards Jig, it seems like he's trying to manipulate her. He wants her to think and to do what he thinks is best. Well, let's try and have a fine time. It's the best thing we can do. We'll be fine afterwards, just like before. I love you. You know I love you. But this is the only thing that bothers us. It's the only thing that has made us unhappy. I won't worry about that because it's perfectly simple. I don't care anything about it. And I know you wouldn't mind it, Jig. It's really not anything. It's just to let the air in. And again, as he starts talking more and more about the operation, about the abortion that she's supposed to have, he calls it a simple, awfully simple operation. It's not even really an operation at all. You don't have to be afraid. I've known lots of people that have done it. I'll go with you. I'll stay with you all the time. They just let the air in, and then it's all perfectly natural. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. I wouldn't have you do it if you didn't want to, but I know it's perfectly simple. So there's a lot of manipulation here, and there's an awful lot of selfishness from this American. Looking at most of these quotes, there's a lot of I's and me's in here. A final theme would be, obviously, the choice. We have to confront the choice that we need to make here. There's got to either be an acceptance of the future, or at least they have an evasion of responsibility. We'll put this decision off for another day. Now, of course, Jig says that every day that goes by, the choice is becoming more and more impossible. Now, motifs. A motif is something that recurs throughout the piece to develop the theme. Now, this could be referred to, or it could be just an incident. It could be an actual activity that just keeps on happening again and again. Now, alcohol is one motif. They discuss the different types of absinthe and the drinks and why it tastes like licorice. There's a lot of discussion about the alcohol in this very short story. So because there's drinking throughout the story, once again, as we see it reoccurring and reoccurring, this is where it now is becoming a motif. First, they order 2 glasses of beer. Then the girl wants to try the Toro. Then they order a second round of beers. And then a third round of beers. And at the end, after moving the luggage, the man stops in the bar room and has another drink. Now, in trying to avoid the conversation and the main issue at hand, the couple is filling their time with the alcoholic drinks. It's supposed to calm their nerves. It is supposed to be something that they could discuss. So they're avoiding the actual difficult conversation by using something that is more comfortable and that makes them comfortable. Now, at the end of of the story, they each are drinking alone. He's sitting at the bar after moving the luggage, and he drinks an Anus del Toro alone. She is at their table that they started at alone, finishing her beer from her third round. Now, a second motif would be the man's, let's call it, emotional bullying, and certainly an oversimplification of an operation. Now, using the euphemism operation rather than the harsh word abortion, it's one way that he is minimizing this sense of choice. His continuing statements stress how perfectly simple the process can be. It also implies his strong opinion that she should just go ahead and do it. Next, we'll get into the symbolism of the story. Now, symbolism is the use of words, places, characters, or even objects that mean something beyond what they are on their literal level. Now, a symbol is a word or object that can stand for another word, object, or idea. Now, the title actually contains 3 different symbols, including hills, the color white, and the idea of a white elephant. So we have the hills that are above the Ebro River in Spain, but we could also talk about the hill that the girl's stomach has. It's a rounded enlargement of the girl's stomach with a baby. The color white. Not only do we have the clouds in the sky and the whiteness that we have of the hills with the sands, but white is also usually symbolized as a color of innocence and purity that we might be putting towards, once again, Jig. Now, a white elephant is usually put in the idea of something that is rare, something that could be expensive, but it doesn't have value to the owner. It might have value to others. So there's this sense of uselessness or being unwanted, where we know there's a sense of value to it, but the owner doesn't see that value. It's kind of useless to them. Now, when we talk about white elephant sales, for example, it's a type of yard sale or a bargain bin sale. The stuff at these sales are basically unwanted. So this reference could imply that the unborn baby is useless or unwanted to at least one of the characters of the story. And of course, a white elephant could also be symbolic of something that is rare and valuable and something that the owner cannot dispose of. Now, according to Asian legends, the possession of a white elephant was regarded as both a blessing and a curse. It was good because the animal was sacred. It was considered to be a high-level gift. And it's bad because the animal could not be used as a labor animal and would be expensive to own and maintain. So the white elephant could symbolize an avoidance of a difficult topic, because you could also use that idiom of the elephant in the room. Now, the phrase an elephant in the room is a euphemism of a topic that is painfully obvious, but no one wants to discuss it. It refers to a question, a problem, or an issue that is obvious, but is being ignored. Now, the white elephant could also be symbolic of strength and fertility. Now, according to tradition, Buddha's mother had a dream about a white elephant that brought her a lotus flower, and the following day, she gave birth to her son. So now we look at the character of Jig, and that would be perhaps a nickname of the girl. Now, the word jig is a device that is used in woodworking. Some have suggested that her name is symbolic because the man thinks of her as a tool, an object, rather than a person with emotions and feelings about her unborn child. Now, jig could also be a reference to a traditional Irish dance, so this nickname can show in a subtle way that the girl and the man are dancing around each other and around the problem that exists without saying anything important or coming to any clear decision. Next, we have the bamboo curtains. Now, the bamboo curtains that they're looking at are boundaries. So there are boundaries that the couple are facing at this point in their life. It could also be perhaps a sense of separation that exists between the couple. Now, we had a motif of alcohol, but in particular, we might have a symbol here of the Anis del Toro. So this new drink tastes like licorice. It could represent the innocence of Jig. She's never heard of the drink before. She's never tried this drink before. But this powerful liquor can symbolize the excitement that her American boyfriend has to offer to Jig. However, with her drinking it, the drink fails to deliver. She says, oh, it just tastes like licorice. It wasn't very exciting at all. We also have the symbolism of them being at a railroad station with the railroad tracks. Now, these tracks are the dividing line between the green fertile land and the brown dry land, and it's representing the division that exists between the couple. Now, these are also tracks that run side by side, and they never meet. They could represent the relationship between Jig and her boyfriend being together and yet never coming together. So the train station itself could also be symbolic of the point where a decision has to be made. It is a midpoint between journeys. You have to make a decision of where you're going to go. Now, there is a green side of the station. There's this lush, fertile, vibrant green landscape that Jig looks out at and says, and we could have all of this. It's a fertile land. Maybe perhaps a new life, a new beginning. And of course, the brown side is the barren side of the station, a brown and dry landscape that would be very symbolic of death, sterility, infertility. We also hear about the Ebro River at the very beginning and end. Now, the Ebro River, as any river would represent, it represents life and vitality. But it also is usually symbolic of a passage of time, how a river just keeps flowing and flowing and never ending. It always moves on. Now, we also see the American moving their baggage. Now, a baggage could be symbolic of the past. Here are items that they have collected. It is items that they have to continue to move with them. So it could be symbolic of the time together. It could be symbolic of what they represent together. Now, on their baggage has the hotel labels, and again represents the couples. All of the places they have traveled to. It also represents the man's spirited and unrestricted lifestyle. He'd have to give up these labels. He'd have to give up these baggages if he settles down to raise a child. So Hills Like White Elephants is similar to many of Hemingway's other short stories. He uses straightforward writing, simple prose, and very skeletal sentences, usually with mostly dialogue and very little narrative prose. He's leaving information out of this story intentionally. He wants the readers to fill in the blanks and to come to their own conclusion. Now, Hemingway knows how to trim language and has been said to get the most from the least. Lastly, Hemingway uses a style that analysts call the iceberg theory. This is very evident in Hills Like White Elephants. His hard facts float above the water, but most of the supporting structure of the story, the symbolism, the motifs, they are operating underwater. Thank you so much for stopping by to learn more about Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway. If you'd like a straightforward putting together of the story from its plotline and its characters, I also have another video on Hills Like White Elephants on my channel. Otherwise, if you'd like to learn more about Ernest Hemingway or other authors, check out the other videos on my channel. Thanks so much for stopping by.